Welcome to the Vibrant Woman, Wealthy Women Within mini audio series. I'm your host, Heather Russell, and I'm here to guide you on the journey where intuition meets action and where your vibrancy unlocks the door to wealth in every aspect of your life. In this mini audio summit, you'll be guided by 8 wisdom keepers who've walked the path and are here to light the way for us all. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's dive into this transformational series. Hello, and today on the show, I'm excited to welcome Annika Carroll. And for those who aren't familiar with Annika's work, she is the mompreneur behind Sleep Like a Boss. Her mission is to empower women to thrive in both their professional and personal lives, and she specializes in helping women reclaim their sleep to prevent burnout. And drawing from her own experience as a sleep and health coach and her own experience with burnout and insomnia, she helps women fix their gut, hormones, and well-being to achieve great sleep, have tons of energy, and with that, sustainable success. And today we're diving into the sleep energy equation, wealthy habits for high-achieving women. I love it, Annika. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Heather, for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited you're on the show. And I love today that we're talking about something health related, something physicality related, because without your health, there is really no such thing as wealth.
Absolutely. I fully agree. I've been there. I've seen it. Health is, to me, is the foundation for us to make everything else fall into place.
Oh, 100%. You could have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, you have nothing. So to begin with, I would love for you to share an aha moment or an experience from your own life that made you realize you weren't in alignment and with your well-being, and how you got started in this work.
How was I not in alignment? That's a good question. I think it started when I was in corporate. I have a background in international business. I worked in corporate for 15 years in human resources. So I helped other people with their resilience and stress management and all that stuff. And it started when I came back from mat leave and had a job, was put in a position that I didn't like. I had the chance to get out of that position in a position I absolutely loved, where I kind of burnt myself out, but I loved it so much that I didn't notice. And then I got put, when the project was complete, I was put into another role that I hated. And that was the first time where I really noticed that I'm like, something's wrong. Like, I have to go to work every day and I'm dreading going. I'm getting headaches. My digestion is off. I'm not sleeping anymore. And I kind of ignored that a little because it was like, yeah, you like killed it on the project and you're just totally stressed and overworked.
Yeah.
But it didn't go away. And working was harder and harder. And I kept like pushing deadlines back. And like people were like, this is odd. She used to juggle everything, no problem. And now it's like what's going on? And I felt it. But at that point, I wasn't ready to, I think, face it and talk to people about it.
I hear you. Oh, goodness. The burnout, the embarrassment, right? Because you're supposed to be superwoman in corporate and all sorts of stuff. And I think it's just fascinating that like to consider really I'll say quieter aspects of life like sleep, really, and its impact on our aspirations, right? Because we heal as we sleep. And it's often like, I think that we have a sleepless epidemic right now. And we tend to just like continue to focus on action, right? But rest is our silent partner to success. So I'm really looking forward to unraveling this with you. So my first question is, what does the quality of our sleep, how does that interplay with our ability to create wellness, well-being, success, and ultimately harmony in our life?
Well, there's lots of things the body does when we sleep, right? The one thing is that it actually repairs what it broke down throughout the day, because that's normal. We're busy, we're doing things, the body, we're taking in stuff like toxins from medications and herbicides, pesticides, whatnot. We stress, and the body rebuilds us overnight. Beauty sleep is like the best example, right? People who don't sleep have aging skin, way more than people who get sufficient amounts of sleep. Talking about harmony, We go through sleep cycles every night. So we fall asleep, then we have eventually deep sleep, then we have REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement where we dream, and then we go through another sleep cycle and they kind of connect. And we do multiple of those every night, and they don't all look the same. So the longer we sleep, the more REM sleep we have, which is dreaming and processing and memory consolidation. And if we cut that short, like let's say we're only sleeping 5 to 6 hours, we don't get enough REM. That makes us a lot less, I would say, balanced and in harmony, because that emotional regulation that happens during that phase is what we didn't get. So, and I'm one of the, like, don't be around me if I didn't get enough sleep. Like, I'm grumpy, I'm moody, I'm impatient, and you see it with toddlers. Like, if anybody is a parent, it's like, oh, they didn't have a good sleep, they're going to be throwing temper tantrums all day. Yeah, we are a little more advanced in that our brain knows how to deal with that better, but we're not really, right? So
Yeah.
that's a big one. And I think you're going to be in fight or flight. You're going to be in stress all day if you didn't sleep enough. So being in harmony and being balanced is very, very difficult if you don't get that restorative rest that you need to achieve that. And if you think about success, that was the other one. People who sleep 5 to 6 hours a night, there's been studies that have shown that have about 20% loss in productivity over people who sleep 7 to 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And if you sleep less than 5 hours a night, you're losing 30% productivity versus the people who sleep 7 to 8 hours. That's a lot. And then we're putting in those late nights to kind of, we're like, oh, we got to work, right? Like sit there at 10, 11, working on those presentations and those reports. In the end, if that compromises your sleep, you're not more productive. You're just working longer hours to get the same stuff done, which is not efficient. And right, it really isn't. And creativity, like that's something that I notice personally for myself, like putting out content online, social media, those things that are part of my job, right? Because I'm an online entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's like, it's hard. If I'm not rested, that creativity piece is just gone.
Yep. I find that my communication skills
Mhm.
take a big dive too when I don't
Mhm.
have restful sleep.
Yeah.
Just really quickly about like the sleep cycles and stuff. What are your thoughts about, bedtime? I hear a lot of things about going to bed before 10 o'clock because by 11, your body gets like its second wind. And then there's also the 5 a.m. club. And I am not a morning person. I mean, even if I wanted to, and I've tried, working like living on the West Coast like I used to and working East Coast hours when I was in corporate and having to be up and ready to go and have coffee and everything by 6 o'clock. I mean, I was toast. I don't
Mhm.
even know how I did that for all those years. But what are your thoughts about the 10 a.m. Sorry, the 10 p.m. being in bed before 10 p.m. And then what about this like 5 a.m. club? I'd love to just like riff with you about it.
I am a morning person. I'm not a fan of the 5 a.m. club. Honestly,
Okay.
and I'm a morning person. Like, can I do my best work probably at like from 6 to 9 a.m.? Technically, could I? Yes, because that's when my brain's just, but then I would be kind of, um, but I think generally we have to see there is a bit this morning person, night owl, like those two chronotypes do exist. And if we play with them, and there's podcasts and Andrew Huberman talks about how you shift your cycle. And I do that with clients sometimes, but there is still an early bird and a night owl. And
Mhm.
if you're a later person, I would honor that as much as I can because it's going to make you fall asleep faster because you're actually tired and you're going to wake up naturally, potentially a little later. If your work environment allows for that, that's often a big problem, right?
Oh yeah.
But if they do, try to keep that your natural rhythm as much as you can. If you are, then there's that question with the 11 o'clock. Would I aim for most people to go to bed at 10ish to be asleep by at 10:30? Yeah, so they get their 7.5, 7 to 8 hours in, so they can wake up at a time that works for them to go to work. But if that's not your bedtime,
Right.
then that's not your bedtime. Then let's make sure you get a sufficient amount of sleep in that time. Now, if you're somebody who goes to bed at 1 o'clock, then I would start, let's say, and see what's driving that you're not tired enough at by 11:30, 12 to go to bed, because that continuously is a bit late.
Yeah, that's very early in the morning. I don't know what organ is processing at that time, but that is really,
Yeah.
that's really late. And, you know, I know this kind of doesn't have anything to do with like, well, it has something to do with our topic, but I'm not, you know, asking about this. But I had this theory that based upon the time that you were born, it kind of like dictated whether or not you were a night owl or got that second burst of energy, like, you know, mid-afternoon or whatever, or you were an early bird in the morning. I mean, that theory is totally wrong, but I just saying I theorized on that to justify why I stayed up so late.
If you think about it, it might even to a degree make sense. I think it's like, I don't think there's much research necessarily on that to support that part, but I think I can see that people have their first circadian rhythm kind of thing very stressful in the middle of the night, right? Like very stressful experience for the baby too. So
Yeah.
maybe.
All right. That's just a little silly thing I wanted to throw out there. Just totally not founded on any studies. It's just my personal, not so humble opinion. But in our quest for like productivity and success and sleep and energy management, right? Those, like I just mentioned, it's often shrouded in a myth and misconception, but we hear all over the place, right? What not to do or what to do to stay energized. And, you know, like we wake up, we immediately drink coffee or not to have it after X amount of time. And then the do's and the don'ts, right? We're just so starved for information because we're overwhelmed by information. What I'm eager to hear your perspectives.
On the different myths that are out there.
Yeah, about sleep and energy management. And then particularly the idea about having a bedtime routine, which I think is important, or something that starts first thing in the morning. What
Mhm.
might you suggest to like navigate true well-being, you know, so that you set yourself up for a good night's sleep and then to have the most productive morning?
Absolutely. So, do we need a bedtime routine? I agree with you. We do. Is that what's gonna make you have the energy and the sleep? To a degree, but it's not all. Because your bedtime routine, how well you sleep, basically depends on what you did throughout the day. So, how you started your day and what you did, all that adds up. It's that last half hour to an hour of what you do before bed helps,
Mm-hmm.
but might not completely mitigate what happened throughout the day. And if we, so with my clients, for instance, what I have them do, so we make sure we have a healthy sleep wake cycle so that we make sure our hormones are secreted at the right time, the cortisol that gives us energy, the melatonin that helps us sleep. The first thing I have them do is get morning sunlight every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you do, people are like, what am I doing? Yeah, you wake up and depending on the season and where you are located, once the sun comes up, either go outside for 10 minutes on your porch with some hot water, tea, something like that, and just look at the sky. Not into the sun, like we don't want to hurt our eyes, but just look at the sky and get that light, because the morning sunrise and the evening sunset have this bit of like a reddish, orangey, yellowy light. And when the sun's up at noon, it's very bright and blue and white. And the angle with which the sun hits your eye, the retina of your eye, signals your body what time it is.
Mm.
So the lower the sun, either in the morning or the evening, the more the body knows, oh, it's in the morning, it knows I need to excrete cortisol now. I need to give this person energy. And I'm setting my inner timer that in 14 hours, I'm going to start releasing melatonin to make that person sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
And you do that for, I would say, a week, if even consistently. People have so much more energy. You get rid of that afternoon crash. You don't need that caffeine there, which we absolutely don't want there for sleep anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just generally have better melatonin levels at night, and that makes falling asleep for a lot of people easier too. So that's like your bedtime routine starts in the morning. You do that. If you can get a little bit of light throughout the day, because a lot of people work in more offices. Like when I was in my corporate job, when did I ever see the sun other than through the window? But it's really try and get maybe after lunch, 5 minutes of your lunch break, go outside, just so your brain gets that signal through your eyes. Oh, the sun's changed position in the sky. It's now a different time. Your body adjusts to that. And then we come towards the evening, and then we have, yeah, things like bedtime routines. I think with a bedtime routine, to me, it's critical in the sense that if we go, 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 go all day,
Mhm.
and we don't have time because we're busy for us and everybody else, and then we hit the pillow and it's quiet for the first time, your brain's going to start talking to you. And that is totally normal because that is that capacity your brain has to start processing. It's like, hello, like you did not react to me for the person cutting you off, for the coworker yelling at you, for your kids throwing a temper tantrum. You just kind of stuff that all down. That's going to come up. You're not going to sleep. And if you can put little breaks in during the day to start processing, even subconsciously, just where you're not doing anything, that will help. And then in the evening, really give yourself a little bit of time. And that can, people are always like, what's the perfect bedtime routine or evening routine? I don't think there is such a thing. I think the most important thing is find something that you enjoy doing, that you're actually looking forward to. Like I have people who hate bathing. Yeah, I'm not going to tell
Bathing, is that
them
what you said?
bathing. Yeah, they hate having a bath. It's like, would I tell them to go have an Epsom salt bath
Oh,
at
okay.
night? No, I would not, because you can stress them out, right? If they want to have a shower, cool. If they
Yeah.
want to read a book, cool. If they want to journal, do a meditation, do some yoga, just some light stretching on the floor in the living room while their husband watches TV because they want to be close to them and not doing something separate. Totally fine. Just something that's a bit more quiet and helps you to start just to get the body in a relaxed state and just get it to, because that's all it needs in the end. It needs to feel safe and calm to fall asleep, right? And if you had a stressful day, maybe write things down. Just kind of process what happened. Right. And if you're somebody who's anxious to forget things or like the to-do list, right? Write it all out. So your eyes see it's on paper, it's taken care of. She's not going to forget about it at 3 a.m. in the morning. We do not have to think about it.
I love that. What are your thoughts on blue light before bed?
Um, Mixed, because I would generally say dim lights once the sun goes down. So these lights that we have, like the spotlights right above our heads, those are not great. They're all LED these days. That's not great. I would try and, if that's the only way, dim them. If possible, have things like side table lights that are more where the light shines from underneath the shade, which is more a below eye level.
Gotcha.
Um, I would always recommend for people to have blue light screen, like blocking filters on their phones. You can get them like a screen protector. They even help during the day to just say they're not going to turn it orange, but it helps so much to take the light off. If you are somebody who has trouble falling asleep, if that's your issue, I would consider getting blue light blocking glasses. Orange lenses, yes, it's going to make your TV look funny, but if you wear those like an hour to 2 hours before bed, your body will produce more melatonin and you will fall asleep faster. There are studies now that just have recently been done where they looked at phone exposure at night for several weeks with people. So the blue light was one discussion, and they blocked the blue light and they still had them scroll. And they didn't actually find that big of a difference.
Wow.
So it was often that they were saying the content, right? The one thing is, yes, you're scrolling on your phone and you're exposed on the devices to the blue light, but don't underestimate what the content actually does versus the blue light. So if you're watching things that irate you, that trigger something in you subconsciously, um, those are things that can mess with your sleep even more than blue light. But yes, I would try and avoid blue light. It's generally not healthy.
It's really interesting that you mentioned like the things that you were exposing yourself to. Because I go on nights that I've watched something that I shouldn't have been watching, like some paranormal thing, which I love, I love the whole idea that, we can only see things on a specific light spectrum, but, there's so much other things that are happening around us, but we just can't see that. But sometimes, I'll watch that and then I won't be able to sleep. I'll be
Mm.
ruminating about it, or like
Mhm.
my subconscious, then I'm having nightmares about like something different. So it was interesting that you mentioned that about being careful about what you consume is equally as important.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's as simple as avoid the news at night.
Oh,
Because to
definitely
be
avoid the
honest,
news.
like the news are not a happy show to watch, right? It's not good what's going on in the world right now. And don't. If you think you feel you need to watch or read the news because you want to be up to speed of what's going on, do it in the morning. Then your body has the chance to actually break down all that cortisol that just stressed you out throughout the day. But don't do
Okay.
it at night.
That's a good suggestion. I mean, I would say don't watch any of the news at all. It is
No, I
television
agree.
programming for
Yes.
a reason,
Yes,
right?
I
They're worried
agree.
about ratings. And if
Yeah.
the more sensationalized they can make it, then people tune in because you're in that high state of
Yeah.
anxiety and then you can't calm down. And isn't it funny that they have the 5 o'clock news, the 6 o'clock news, just in case you didn't see the 5 o'clock news, and then the 10 p.m. news,
Mhm.
right? Like, how much does that mess with you and your sleep cycle?
Yeah.
So how can busy women, like, so we talked about a couple things, but I'm wondering how busy women can integrate, like who are constantly balancing, obviously, that work, life, family, and, like realistic expectations of self-care, right? I know that we as a community have, we know we need self-care, and sleep is one of the biggest things of self-care that we can give ourselves. Taking pressure off ourselves is also another one. But how can what kind of self-care practices would you recommend? And I really like the idea. I always like the idea of like a nighttime routine to wind down. And I know it is different for every person, but I'm just wondering, for like sufficient sleep and energy management, we talked a little bit about it, but like, how can we just add those like specific things in daily routines? And one I want to just really quickly is, what do you think about having coffee before 9 o'clock when your body is dumping all of that cortisol?
I would um coffee is a thing. I think coffee I'm not against coffee. I'm a sleep coach, but I think it's great. It actually has health benefits, but you have to know when to consume it. So in the morning, we have what's called a cortisol awakening response, what you just described. The body's going to start not right away when you wake up, but like 60 to 90 minutes after you wake up, dump a lot of cortisol into your system on purpose. That's going to get you energy for the day. If you then drink coffee, like you wake up at 6:30, at 7 o'clock, you have your first cup of coffee before you had food, you really spike your cortisol, or there's a potential, not everybody reacts, but there is a high potential that you
Mhm.
spike your cortisol higher than your body would have without the caffeine. And what goes up must come down. So you'll crash. You'll have that after an early afternoon crash. You're going to go for the next coffee or the muffin. Something gives you quick energy. It's going to become a vicious cycle. That's one thing. The other thing is, because we were talking about early birds and night owls, if you spike your blood sugar or your cortisol, your blood sugar earlier than your body would have done it, you start shifting your circadian rhythm forward over
Mm.
time. Through the caffeine, that can happen. So I would generally say 2 hours-ish after you wake up, have your caffeine
Mhm.
and make sure you ate breakfast. So the system has something to break down and it doesn't completely rush into the system. And then the other thing is really if you're somebody, and I used to be that's why and I see it with a lot of clients, if you struggle with anxiety,
Mm.
even if it's this high functioning anxiety of I just can't get stuff done, the more things I tick off my to-do list, the better. Otherwise, I'm really grumpy. And this gives you this anxiety. I would really rethink my caffeine intake because if you take that out for a while, you will be a lot smoother sailing. That anxiety and caffeine are not a great combination.
No, no, it's not. And I noticed that people who are heavy caffeine consumers, right? The moment they stop having it, it is like an instant headache because we have that caffeine addiction. Ah.
Yeah, ideally, we kind of, depending on how much coffee you have every day, I would wean people off, like mix it with a third, start with a third decaf, 2/3 caffeine, and then go lower and lower throughout the week. Because a lot of people, if you go cold turkey, that cannot be fun.
That's as bad as forcing somebody to have an Epsom salt bath who hates baths.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. So Annika, would you tell the audience about your free gift and where they can find you?
Absolutely. So the free gift is a guide for you that talks about all different things that can mess with your sleep, some of them might surprise you. And lots of tips in there, from nutrition to stress management, what you can already do to support your body so you can have more energy and so you can just get better sleep. And yeah, just do that, because I think it's just so foundational, and we just feel amazing if we do, and then we can just do what we want to do, right? And how can you find me? You can find me at sleeplikeaboss.com. That's my website. I also have a podcast, the Sleep Like a Boss podcast. It's the same thing on YouTube and on Facebook, and on Instagram is @_ Annika Carroll.
Perfect. Thank you so much for offering this. I mean, I think that as we start to examine really how sleep deprived we are, like we had mentioned in the beginning, we bring awareness to things, and then we can figure out, where we can incorporate like little tiny changes in our lives that work in alignment with us. So thank you so much for offering that.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for being on the Vibrant Woman, Wealthy Woman Within series and sharing all of your thoughts and insights, Annika.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And to the audience, we'll talk to you all soon. Okay, how awesome was that? Another powerful and simple technique to embody your wealthy woman within. And don't forget to head over to the speaker interview page and grab your free gifts from each of the Wisdom Keepers. I'd love to hear what resonated the most with you about this interview. Send me an email at heather@heatherrussell.co or a DM on Instagram @theheatherrussell. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for tuning in. So much love to you, Vibrant Woman. And bye for now.